Because the rest of the stuff, like I said, it's just illusion. So I said I used to be a shrink, and I worked for places like a healthcare center. I worked in jails. I worked in you name it, I did it. And I was mostly doing research. But when people come to me, I hear voices, right? So the normal way of dealing with it is the doctor will give you an antipsychotic drug, right? And all it does is kind of make it so you can hear that voice, so but you can't understand it. Like, right? But that antipsychotic drug has side effects, and so I would, and I'm not an MD, so I would have to send them somebody else to give them drugs. But my attitude was, so someone, if you, first of all, I said, I hear voices, and I say, well, what do they say? you know? And they would say, oh, this, that, or the other. And if it was good, then I said, well, listen to the good ones. If it was bad, I'd say, just tell them to shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear that. And if you do that enough, it'll go away. Because that voice is actually coming from your subconscious, from the trauma from the past. Right? So, because you can't express that trauma, so you have this other thing to express. And so there is always a way to deal with it. But most people just go on with their life, what they were doing, and before they know it, they said, "Oh, you look like you're 30s," and no, I'm in my 50s. A number of years have gotten away from it. And what you got to put in.
Schizophrenia.
Yeah.
I read some of it. It'll just come upon people. It usually hits like 20s, 30s.
Yeah, there's a lot of chemistry, hormones in the body that have to deal with it. But again, if you are consciously aware, consciously intent about your life, those things you can. Look at me. I have all these things that are, endocrinologically wrong with me. My liver, my kidney, when you name it, they're shot. Right? And I can get them to do at least be balanced so they're not killing me by eating the right things and not eating too much, exercising and having the right thoughts. And everyone could do that. And again, this power structure doesn't want that. Power structure wants everyone sick. So they can either put you in jail, put you on a prescription, do this, do that.
Also, medicated country in the world. Those things.
Right. And you know what's interesting? The United States does not have the most guns in the world. You know what country has more guns per capita? Not by guns, but per person. Right? Sweden. Sweden has 7 million people in their country. When you're 16, everybody, every boy, every girl goes to the army, gets trained. Right? Goes to boot camp, learns how to shoot a gun, and if you, stay in the army, and then become trained. Right? So they got a pretty kick-ass army. No one messes with them. But everyone in that country has a gun, and it was given to them by the army because they could be called up at any time. Right? So that gun has a number on it. Right? That number prescribes to a rifle owner. So if you shoot that gun and it's involved in a crime, they know exactly whose gun it is, and they come looking for you. Everybody's got a gun in that country, but their level of violence is like almost zero. Right? Because the government takes care of them, educates them, gives them health care. They have nothing to worry. They're not worrying about anything.
They automatically have to have so many years in the military, don't they?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And they're part of the school?
Yeah. In high school, they go through that. And then they pretty much are in the army for the rest of their life. I mean, they're not marching around, but they go train a couple of times a year, and they, if they're called, they show up. So that's like I said, their country, has pretty kick-ass army, so no one messes. They're right on the border with Russia. I mean, nobody messes with these guys. And they have a good economy. Everyone has a job. Yeah, of course there are people messed. I lived there for a year. So, of course, there are people who are messed up. But there are people there to help. And that's what's missing here. Dr. Leeskin, I know him well. He's
He used to be a private doctor in Beaumont.
right. Right. Then he wanted to do the good thing. He's like the really only real doctor they have there. And the rest are nurse practitioners. So they have like 1,200 patients signed up. And pretty much they'll take anybody if you need them. So they're the closest thing to healthcare for everybody. And yet they're very limited because they're not a profit entity. They don't have a lot of money. But it's there. So there's a doorway to go through. So let's see your hand. Hand your right. Hand your right. Put it up like that. So I can see it. No, you're kind of close to the vest. You never really share anything. I mean, you talk to me like this. It's not a bad thing. The strongest thing you have is you think with your heart and you feel with your head. So that has more or less kept you out of worse trouble than you could have done. But you do have a little bit of a temper, but not like you don't wear it on your sleeve. So it only occurs if someone pushes the wrong button. Normally, you don't really get upset. But if somebody pushes that button, you're off to the races. You have a lot of big dreams, big time dreams. And when you wake up, you go, "Whoa, what the heck was that about?" Take your phone. You know how you can record your voice on your phone? You know, on your phone, you can record your voice. Hit that record button. Don't get out of bed when the dream is still right with your brain. But you say, "Wow, I had a dream about blah, 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 blah." Now it's on your phone. Now you can play it back. Listen to it. That's when you write it down. You can listen to like one sentence, pause it, write it down, do the next sentence. And when you do that, in school we took notes, not to remember, but to understand. Plato did the scroll, I can understand. So you listen to what you say, write it down, and you go, "Wow, that's why I did it. Whoa, I won't do that again." It will be the best rank you ever had. Let's say to you, not some moron like me, something. So let's see this side of you, the other side of you. So you're a lot smarter than people give credit for, and you're very empathetic, and you're good at getting the job done. Your biggest roadblock is yourself because you worry too much. You can get into this cycle of worrying and then you can't do anything. So that's why you need. That's why you don't leave yet. You get a counselor, and you can do it. Yeah. But your biggest issue is starting. Once you get into it, you're good at getting whatever it is. When you learn how to weld, you were like, "Oh, I don't know. And you got into it, and then you can do it. So that's what I used to do.
You're on the head.
You know,
30 minutes or something, guys. We're good, man.
I did it for 50 years, so that's a lot of money. And I did it in lots of different places, lots of different ways. I just didn't get stuck in one thing. And that's kind of why, I mean, if you want to be real successful, you basically have to stick yourself in something and just do that for the rest of your life. And you can be successful. What is successful? Are you happy? You've been successful. I've always been happy. I've always been able to do a lot of stuff. But once I died and my body kind of crinkling slowly, that's okay. I'm happy with being slow.
That's the guy.
Yeah, I try. I do. I don't try. I do. And I've died 7 times, so I'm not worried. When I was a little kid, I was really sick. And I died 4 times. Well, when I was born, my mom's umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck. So basically, she choked me to death. I was a blue baby and crushed my esophagus. So I couldn't really talk until it was about 4. Somebody can't walk. So I was a great listener.
Choices.
Yes. So because of that, I would get pneumonia a lot and get whooping cough a lot. And this was the 50s. I was very lucky to have a pretty good doctor. Saved my life at birth and saved my life when I was 5. And when I was 10, I really died. And that was it. I woke up and they were like, I was in the freaking morgue. Hey, I'm not dead. That's what I said. I'm never doing this again. I'm never being sick. I'm done with this. And I was. I told myself, that's it. I'm going to do this. But to wake up in a morgue. So I've had some interesting episodes like that. So I've gotten to be able to see behind the curtain. See, it's nothing like it's been ever. But you don't have to see yourself as a loser or a failure. Because every moment you have is a new moment. So one of the things I went to school so I was a newspaper photographer guy. Then I went to Duke and I got myself into Duke. Just walking into Duke and saying, "Okay, I'm here," and I figured out something where they wanted to use me, and then they put me in school and paid me to go to school. But in those days, cigarettes in that school were free. The cigarette machine was free because they wanted to addict you. Right? If you bought a pack of cigarettes,
Where was this?
Durham, North Carolina. And we went to a general store, a pack of cigarettes with a nickel. And they'd sell it to like a 3-year-old. And so, I started smoking down there because everyone smoked. I'm not the crowd. But when I came back to New York, it was $1.25. It's good. And it was it's a very addictive drug. But I stopped it. And by that, I realized I could stop almost anything. So I never got, and I got my drugs. Even though I worked in the music industry for a number of years, I never did any drugs. And people were going, and I was the head electrician in a lot of houses, and I would hang out with bands and play in those places. Right? They'd have a limousine, and we'd go to parties and some nights the driver would be as drunk as they were, so I would end up driving the limousine. I was the only one that was drinking. I mean, I would have a drink. So, what's your astrological sign?
February, Valentine's Day.
Oh, so are you a Pisces or a
Aquarius?
Aquarius? Well, Aquarians are tough because they can almost do anything. And in a lot of ways, things seem easy. But in reality, they aren't because Aquarians are the biggest enemies themselves. And they're very kind, and they're nice, and they're generous, and they're all these great things. People really like them. But then people expect them to be this way. People project on Aquarians what they think they are. And that's not what you are. You are like an enigma or wrapped in a Tootsie Roll, wrapped in something else. So people think they know you, and they don't. So, and because you are the 14th there, you're kind of towards Pisces. So that's why you worry too much. I mean, most Aquarians don't worry because they don't care.
Sucks. You hit me that nail on the head. If I don't have something to worry about,
Right, exactly. Or you make something to worry about, right? and being stuck between Pisces and Aquarius, you have this sense that you're not good enough. So you always put yourself, not always, but you put yourself into a position, but you got thrown in the can for. You didn't have to do that. I didn't really have a choice about it. And back in your mind, you knew the odds of you going to jail were pretty high. So you did it anyway. Yeah. So that's the real deal. Is you have to realize that you're the decider. You actually can decide what you want to do. And you are worth it. You have two little babies that need you.
She's not. I'm just not participating at all.
Right. But you can.
No, I'm saying she's not.
Only because she's
She's not letting me do it.
only because, like you said, she's doing the right thing. Till you get in a program, you get your life squared away.
Somebody that's around saying and such, she's got her own problems too.
We all do. We all. How old is she?
44.
Okay. And you know what actual life
She's July 28th. So that was.
Leo or Cancer. Well, that's another type.
She's a beautiful woman. She's very smart and creative.
So whenever you're stuck between two signs, like both of you are, you're one or the other, and be okay. You could be one or the other. If you're Pisces, that's a great sign because they can swim through anything. Aquarians, are like Quicksilver. They're really smart, really sharp. When you're stuck between the two, it's tough. And she's stuck between Leo and Cancer, and Cancers are. So she's really psychic, right? She really picks things up.
Yeah, I think so.
But she doesn't want to.
In a sense, she's doing the right thing. In a sense, she's not. She's cut off communication. She just cut off communication.
She did it because it's too hard for her to talk. That's why
She said, yeah. But she's doing her own thing. She's not living like a man. See, I've been faithful. I don't know with women. I see what she did. I mean, she's been seen by other people. I've talked to me. She was seen with such and such, seen with such and such. So,
what's she gonna do?
it's not right. It's not right. I'm not doing it.
Well, no. You're judging her by you. She's a totally different person. Right? And guys, the older they get, like me, I'm in my mid-70s. I don't have any testosterone left in me. So I'm not thinking about girls at all. And I never really did a lot. I was a guy, if a girl liked me and came over and said, hey, I like you, a cave girl, like to everybody. That was my girl. I was down with it. But I was on a hunt. I was too busy doing other stuff. And so, but if somebody kind of was doing what I was doing and everybody, come on, boy, that was my girl. But everyone's different. So
She's not giving me a chance.
at this moment, I mean, why did you guys get hooked up in the beginning?
Six girls.
Right. But you had two kids.
She's smart. She's the smartest woman I've ever been involved in that, right? She's real smart. High IQ. She's creative. She's from Florida. She's different than this local girl.
Right. But all you have to work on is yourself. Then everything will fall into place. The most important thing isn't her, it's your kids. And they're young enough where if you get your act together the next few years, they're going to be part of your life. And that'll be a good thing. It'll be a good thing for you, and a good thing for them. That's what you should be doing. And you got to realize you can't do it all in one shot. Start steps, baby steps. All you got to do is your best. Not to be perfect.
Your best. You learn to show people on something.
Yeah.
There's a guy I got respect for. You know, Matthew Conley and Food Farm Industries and some of these other religious places to go.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, I do.
I'm just thinking about going there now.
Well,
I don't know if I should.
the bottom line is,
Being out of town, my baby's so close. I'm determined about that.
well, there are a couple of places like that around here.
Yeah.
If you're looking for, but bottom line about religion,
No, I'm not going on religion now. I think that
those guys want you to be part of their cult.
I think that's a good decision to do. Do something
No.
at this point.
You have to know. You're the best decision I can, and only from my short talking to you, is you need to go to somebody like Lee Sanders and get him to get you into a program. Because you need to get it balanced. You need to get a place where you're balanced. Right? And so going into another environment where they are doing their thing, and that's not balanced, it's their thing. You're switching one thing for another thing.
Yes. That I didn't do something like that. Be involved with my kids again and stuff. I don't agree with it either.
Well,
I'm not,
but
I don't need that.
no. And I don't know I don't know those programs entirely. And I, worked with Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous as a shrink, and those are very Christian organizations. They're very good. I mean, they only take anything on Christian, but their way of doing things is a very Christian way of doing things. And that's not bad, because they're not trying to control you, because they realize you're not going to change unless you want to change. Oh. And that's the bottom line.
Like certain everything. She's doing that. It's like the deep focus everybody's attention on what she's doing.
But again,
because my prison area didn't make me look bad.
what she's doing,
So manipulations what it is.
but what she's doing is almost irrelevant. It's what you have to do for yourself. Right? You can't judge her through you or any of the above, because she'll have to deal with whatever she's doing.
Just do some stuff like this.
Well, again, it's
That's really fair.
fair is, buddy, what is fair? Please. There is no such thing as fair. There is no such thing as good and bad. You know? I mean, we obliterated all of the Middle East between 2000 and 2020. We killed 16 million people. And now we're calling the Russians evil bastards. 1/100th of what we did. You know? And we've given, our government has given the Ukrainians $250 billion of weapons in 3 months. Just think what $250 billion could do for the American people. You know?
So everyone met them about that.
Like, huh? Yeah. I got an eye. Anyway, so good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Bob. Here I am at my office in the room of elevator music, and I'm wearing. I like my hat down here. I'm wearing my American hat here, and just having little conversations with folks here and there, right? And it's a world we live in that's just so totally stranger than a strange land.
tired. One night, which was awesome. She was like, well, I'm doing too much. And I went alone, and
Baby.
there was too many.
Huh. Oh, here we go. A little. Yeah. Howdy, Cowboys. Do.
Remind myself that it's all human chemical reactions going on in my body. It's not because I'm a loser. It's not because I made a mistake. It's not because I should be doing something else or should be working harder. It's just because I'm in unfamiliar territory. I'm uncomfortable and a little pissed off, and that's okay.
That's pretty much everybody. Well, we're all a little uncomfortable, right? But we're a spiritual being in a material body, right? My friend that I'm talking to right here, he's in that shape. You know? Make a little contact. Give her a call first, see if she answers. Hey there, sweetie. I'm just touching base with you. Let's to your message, and you know, you have to realize, you know, you were in England for what, 10, 15 years, you know, that's, means you're experiencing PTSD. You have to realize that, you're in a trauma motif. And the only way you can defunkify yourself is be in a space where you can be consciously intent and consciously aware. That's called meditation. Then, if you can't write, then you should read. That's what I do. I just keep reading, writing. And, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, right? And so all the rich people who are moving in, they come in here, and there is nothing to distract them. They have to look at the beautiful nature, or and basically what they do is they go nuts and can't deal with it. Have to run away and do something over here, and go drink, and go do something over there, and run around and distract themselves. You are where you're supposed to be, right? And realize that, and just focus on being your best in the moment. Whatever you're doing, brushing your teeth, picking your nose, cleaning your mom's house, cleaning your room, playing with Jeff, writing, reading, or doing whatever. And I am not driven to need to do anything, right? But I come to the supermarket once in a while. That's what I'm doing right now, because it has nice Wi-Fi, and it's the only real place I can talk to you. And I love you. My love is always with you. And I believe in you, right? I believe in everyone. Do they believe in themselves? Not really. So, you allow yourself to be put in a funkified mood where you replay what happened from when you were a little girl, from when you were a teenager, from when you were early 20s, what happened last year, all of the above. And you don't have to do that. Right? You don't have to expect you're going to, hit the ball out of the park, right? Just, why do I write all these novels? Am I going to become rich and famous? No, probably, but not immediately. I've already been rich and famous. I don't have to, I have to do this. No, it's like, I've been there, done that, So that's what I'm talking about. You just have to. So I write these stories mostly because I enjoy writing these stories. So that's the way it rolls, So I love you. You stay well, It's and we went to Seattle. It rains in Seattle all the freaking time, Anyway, so what can I say? That's about it. So I could get upset about the rich people coming in and being annoying, but I don't, because they keep screwing things up, and then they have to fix it, and then it's better than it was. That's how I look at it. And at some point, the really rich people will come and buy me out, and I'll have a nice check, and I'll be able to go do something else, right? But right now, I am just, I've had this property 20 years, 18. About 16 of those years, I would only be there 3 or 4 months of the year. I'd be in my place in Florida, or my place here, or my place there, and working and doing other things. I don't do any of it, right? And so I'm enjoying every day. And when I wake up, I get up with the sun, around 7 a.m. and water the garden and do other chores, fix this, fix that, read a little book. I'm reading Ender's Game, which is written in 1977, and reading it now, it's unbelievable, right? Sci-fi kind of, they made a movie about it. Anyway, it's really, so there, and it's, your basic bubblegum sci-fi, but whoever wrote it really understood a lot of dynamics and put them in the story, just as a sideline, like I do. But I do it in a more esoteric way. They're doing it pretty straight up. And so, and they did in 1977. So it's really interesting to see what's going on in Europe now, and see this guy. And he's talking about, the year 2022, like 200 years from now, right? but it's still the same thing. Right? So, anyway, except aliens are here and attacking us. So, and that's what's going to happen before 4th of July. So, I'll talk to you later, sweetie. I always love you. You're always in my heart. Just do your best. You don't have to be perfect. Say hi to Jeffy for me. Love you. Talk to you later. Do. Ah. Oh, yeah. Get your phone charged up?
2%.
Ah. Yeah, this is my Boone office.
Another spot like for some of this. Go hang out, get coffee, pretty much do this. Our fair.
Where?
Our fair.
Oh, that place, yes. It's okay. I mean, it's very interesting. I used to live in Asheville, North Carolina.
You too.
Right? Oh, really? Yeah, when? What year?
17.
2017. I was there between 91 and I left in 99. And I went there when Asheville was stuck in amber. There was no one there. There was nothing going on because it was the hipster Paris of the South in the 20s, and they spent a lot of money to make it look to do. And then the Depression came. They did not finish paying off their Depression debt until 1996. So no one lent them any money. They built no malls. They built no this. They built no that. Right? So Roger, who started Earth Fair, his mother would cook the food, and Roger had an organic farm in the back.
This is really
Yeah,
true.
yeah, it's on Broadway, in Asheville, right? And that was their first place. It was a house, right? Anyway, I lived across the street. I used to go play checkers with his mother and help her cook and do chores for her. And because I have a soft place for grandmas in my heart. And anyway, so their business started to do pretty good, right? And so better than the co-op, which was downtown. And so he got that place where Earth Fair is in Asheville, right off the Patton Avenue Bridge, right? He rented that for $1,500 a month. I mean, that whole frigging shopping center he rented for $1,500.
That's off Patton in Asheville?
Yeah. Just off the bridge.
I can't think of where it is in Asheville.
When you go over the Patton Avenue Bridge,
I didn't actually know there was a fair.
that was the first one.
It makes sense.
Roger.
Makes perfect sense.
Roger started it in that house on Broadway, right? Anyway, so I had a little construction business and a little real estate business and I had my electrical business, and I was doing research at UMCA, and I was like the dude. I was like the art guy. When I went there first to do an ethnography on the Biltmore House, because the Biltmore House was the biggest house in America, richest place, and then it fell into disrepair. It basically turned into a trailer trash campsite. And yes, and the federal government and the state went to the guy who owned it and said, okay, listen, you owe us millions of dollars in taxes, and we want to spunk this place up so it can be the anchor to tourism for the new Asheville that's going to come. Right? It's not here yet, but it will. But that's going to be the first place. So we're going to dump federal money, state money to fix this place up, but you got to get out of here. Get the trailer trash kids out. So he did. He didn't have to pay the $1 million in taxes. He still got to own it. And I was sent in there with 2 other people to do an ethnography. We looked at what the Biltmore House was then, and then we went and did all the research on what it had been, right? And so the people who were going to restore it could restore it back to what it was, right? So I spent a year doing that. That's how I got to know everyone. And then we did the same thing with City Hall, because it was in downtown. It was another thing they wanted to spunk up. So they sent me to that. And then I met a few interesting people who were really going to revitalize Asheville. And I I worked for them, and that was all good. I went to out to Cherokee near Waynesville, and they were trying to get on the roll. And me and this girl who I worked on the Biltmore House, we went and took all of their history and put it into a database so we could take it to the federal government and show that they had enough people. These people were righteous, so they did, and they got their land, and they became a nation again, and they built, a fortune out of gambling, right? And they bought. They're the people who own the Hard Rock cafes. So we helped them do that, and they were very kind and generous to reward us for that. So I spent the first 3 years doing that. And each of those projects rewarded me very nicely. Right? And actual was I had this amazing apartment, 3-bedroom apartment, kitchen, dining room, heat and electricity for $175 a month. And where the Biltmore, but the Grove Park Inn, the big fancy hotel in North Asheville, really fancy. Golf course, really fancy. In North Asheville, up kind of as you're going out towards the. Not quite, no. It's right in Asheville City, but it's right up north. Anyway, it's where all the big houses are up there.
I've lived there several times. I got some relatives that live there now.
Right. So anyway, that's a big fancy hotel, and right across the street was this apartment house, and I rented this apartment and had it, and that was I don't know 4 blocks to UNCA, so I could actually walk to UNCA, do my work there, and but it was so much fun because there were a lot of really interesting people, nobody else. So I had downtown, Tingle Alley, Lexington Avenue.
I'm sure I've been through it.
Broadway is the major thing that goes into Merriman, and then it goes underneath 420, and the road that's right next to it is Lexington, and Haywood is up here where the convention center and all that is. Anyway, it's a big steep hill, and it's where the Masons had their lodge. I rented the Masonic Lodge, 7,000 square feet downtown, Masonic Lodge, for $50 a month. And this is when nobody.
How many square foot? How many square foot?
7,000 square feet downtown, right? And we just had one crazy party after another, and I turned it into like a alternative culture mall. Anybody who had an idea of wanting to do anything, go ahead, do it. So we had a lot of fun. Those between 93 and 99 were great years because the throngs of all the rich people and the tourists hadn't showed up. And you could do anything. There was a thing that we did called Bell Share, right? And we started it off, and it was right. But when we did it, it was just a block party. Right? We would do it on Wall Street, off of Haywood, and we did that for 5 years, and then downtown development took it away from us and turned it into this gigantic monster that had like 100,000 people. Big festival. Well, it got so big, they stopped doing it because it just got too crazy. So, so you were living out near Black Mountain?
Yeah, last time, Swanville, yeah.
Yeah, so you know where Swannanoa, the jail and the mental institution in Swannanoa, where the VA is in Swannanoa? That's where I worked. So I worked with the people in jail there. I worked with the kids who were in like the kid jail. I worked with the guys at the VA.
JC or something, call it a training school or something.
Yeah.
Also, I went to the Merriman House, the halfway house, homeless shelter.
Yeah.
The Merriman House.
Yep. And the problem with all those things are, so before any of that, like I said, nobody was in, there was nothing going on in Roanoke on that level, right? But
That's pretty wide open.
I know, but there was nobody there. But everybody, all the interesting people were there. Now there were a lot of homeless people there because very similar to here and Asheville, the AT and the Blue Ridge Parkway go right through it. So a lot of people homeless were on the AT, and so they would walk into Asheville and fare change and that kind of stuff. And there was a guy who was a really great artist, and right underneath the Patton Avenue Bridge, the utility company would just dump their trash, concrete and wire, and just clean it all up. And he turned it into a community of homeless people and people who should, mostly would be considered crazy. And he took care of them. And state didn't give him any money, and it was just a really amazing place.
You see the little trolleys that go downtown. When's the last time you were there?
Well, actually, I left in '99. Never went back, but in March, May, I still have loads of friends there. So my friend said, "Oh, you need to come." So I did. I went and saw him and stayed at his house and went and saw my other friends, and that was quite nice. I spent about 2 weeks there.
They got trolleys that go all over town for free, basically now.
But not real trolleys. But,
No, not really.
but back in the day when I was there in '91, they had trolleys everywhere. Real trolleys that ran on rails.
Huh? There?
Yeah.
Living?
And they had a trolley line that went from Asheville out to Waynesville.
I didn't know that. Huh, it's interesting.
And it stopped because of all these hotels along 1922. And I was there to see it. I used to camp on Mount Mitchell. There were trees on top of Mount Mitchell. There aren't anymore because of all the acid rain.
Yeah, that's the house mountain east of Mississippi, right?
One of them. Mount Washington, New Hampshire is right up there too.
Something in the top three. I
Right.
read that in the atlas.
Right. And, yes, there's three of them. There's that one and Mount Washington in New Hampshire, and there's one more that I'm not quite sure where it is.
Right? There's somewhere there.
Well, the one in New Hampshire, not Washington, but it's another one. Anyway, yeah. But when I used to camp there in the 70s, late 60s, it was really beautiful. You ever go to Blueberry Hills? It's up there.
Asheville?
Yeah. Well, between Asheville and Waynesville on Blue Ridge Park.
That's a community or
Well, it used to be back
that's
in
a
the
restaurant?
No, it used to be. It used to be where a little town was, and there's another one called
Blueberry Fields, huh?
and there's another one Graveyard Field, and these were all where
They're off the parkway, you said?
they're right on the parkway, and they had little towns up there.
I really like that area. I like it.
Oh yeah, it's a very sweet place, that's for sure. The views are pretty freaking amazing.
My dad's been, I'm a green. My dad's been like actually from Long Rock.
Oh really?
Not too 21, yeah.
Oh, oh man.
My phone's not letting me call out. My mom's calling. I'm gonna see if they'll let me use this one phone up here.
Huh.
I'll be back in a second.
Yep. Yeah. Oh. So this is your office too?
I'm the
Yep.
project.
What do you do?
I'm in sales,
What do you sell?
so implants.
Oh. Surgical implants. Surgical implants.
Yeah, I'm in orthopedics, so I do I specialize in trauma, orthopedic trauma.
Yep. Car crashes. Gunshot wounds.
High energy, low energy. I mean, vast majority is low energy. Fragility fractures, that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Fractures.
Yep. Well, here in America, there's a lot of that.
Everyone's getting older, right?
Well, it's really stress. America's biggest medical issue is stress. We don't deal with it. You stress your body out up here, it's going to ravage everything else.
Yeah.
So, do you ever live anywhere else? Like another country?
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. Answer this. Hey, sweetie. There you are. So did you get my message? Yeah. Okay, good. Basically, what I was saying was that, when you left America and went to England, and, pretty much your life has been stress the whole time. So you're in a PTSD mode. Okay, hold on. Can you hear me now? Better? I'm right next to the Wi-Fi. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I hear you. It's just this little device. It bounces through the universe. And so, do you have an American phone number I can call? Let me write it down. Oh yeah. Send it to me on this thing. Yeah. And then I'll call you back. But I'm talking to you from the supermarket in my office in Boone, North Carolina. It's what do they call this place? Publix. So it's the high-end supermarket. So they have that little place where you can have your lunch. So I hear you very well now. How do you hear me? Okay. So it's synced up, I guess. So, you just have to take it, how I take my life is moment by moment. And each moment, and I do my best. So each moment is my best moment, and it works out okay. And whether I accomplish this, that, or the other thing, it doesn't really matter. So, and writing, when I can't write, I read. And that usually motivates me to write. And what? Outlook. Right. Right. Yep. Well, silly is good. Silly is good. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Going on at every second, right? And it's
Yep.
hard.
You have to live in the moment. You have to appreciate the moment. You have to see the movement as the door opening as your opportunity for change.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's
I'm doing a lot better.
okay. And that's all you got to do. Better and better. Because it's always in baby steps. I mean, you're never, there is no finish line. You're never going to be perfect, but you can do your best.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all you got to do. And, and don't expect any one experience to be the catalyst for the rest of your life. And I know exactly what the guy was talking about, the twin flame, because the twin flame is actually the DNA double helix, and that's your double helix, right? And you are not going to be balanced for anyone else to come into your life until your double helix, your twin flame, is balanced.
Yeah,
So that's kind of how it rolls. So
I think as well, I'm such an impatient person. And my problem is I have such a strong belief, and I'm impatient. So that's not always a good combination because I expect things to happen now, and I expect better now. But I feel like that's just kind of being ungrateful at the same time. And
Yep.
So.
And that's why faith is better than belief, because faith is the allowing what you need to have happen. Where the belief is the thing where you're using a crowbar, you're trying to force it.
Yeah, exactly. And the universe, I'm trying to trust the universe that it has a better plan for me than what I had planned. So.
Right. Our plans are fine, but as long as we realize that they aren't going to work out that way, that we can be flexible, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's so much real love in the world. I feel like I was dismissing it by trying to control things. I was thinking that one direction was a better direction than the other, and thinking that one outcome was better, and that's not really like a loving attitude.
Right. It's the crowbar.
I really love it.
It's the crowbar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so that's where you're at, and so everything is as it should be. So even though you're experiencing some downtime, it really is. I was telling someone today that when I was a little kid, I was really sick. I always got really sick. I was born dead. I died a few times as a kid. And when I was 10, I was really sick. and I really died, and I woke up in the morgue, right? You know,
Yeah.
they didn't even have the patience to see if I was going to, be alive. Get me out of here.
Yeah.
And so after they took me out and they put me in a bed up back in the, ward, they ignored me. You'd think after dying and then ending up in the morgue and then they bring you up to the bed, they would give you a little attention, but no. And that's when I said, that's it. I am never getting sick again. Period. I'm through with this. And I was. That was it.
Yeah.
So, you don't want to have to die and end up in the morgue and come back and then be ignored. No, you have to, say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And you do your best at doing that. But you don't have to be perfect and you don't have to expect any singular outcome. Just better than waking up in the morgue, And at least waking up in the morgue, I at least woke up.
Yeah, exactly.
They could have put me in the ground, So that's why I know I'm not going to die until it's really my time to die.
Yeah.
So I've taken that off the worry list,
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and that's what I need to do more as well, is stop being so worrisome about things.
Yep, because it doesn't matter. The universe doesn't care. I mean, all this stuff that people are freaking out, the wars here and there and all of this other global warming, it is what it is. There's not much we can do about it except our best,
Yeah.
And
That's what people do that all the time, is they freak out when, if you just take action, actually you can, most of the time.
Yes, you can fix it. I mean, that's been, why people used to call me Mr. Fix-It, because I never worried about it. I just looked at what the problem was and I started to work on fixing it. And I didn't fix it immediately, but, after an amount of time, it was fixed, So that was my motif. So, are you, you can get a job anytime you want, but you don't have to get one at this moment,
Yes.
Buddy. So remember, go see Dr. Lee's guy, okay? I'll see you here. This is my office. There was a homeless guy who I was talking to for a few hours. No one had been talking to him for a while, so I said that he could, basically same conversation I'm having with you, right? It's my basic, my conversation 101. You can fix it.
Find that vibration over and over.
Yeah, that's what I'm here to do. And he couldn't believe I read his palm and just kind of fell out, just couldn't believe it. And we talked about and he's kind of a closed guy, and he told me everything about himself. He goes, I don't know why I'm doing this. I never tell anyone this, and, but it, I opened the door a little bit and gave him an he can go up. See, he has to make the change. I can't do it for him. I can talk to him and have him illuminate things so he can hear himself talk about them and think about them. And I can give him a few little, you should go, like I said, go talk to this guy. And I gave him his name and number. And if he does it, that's a doorway that he could walk through, But I can't.
Exactly.
Yep. And so that's where we're at. And this summer now, that's been my attitude, is I'm just going to enjoy every second of it and not worry about it. And, winter isn't going to be here for another 7 months. So, I'm fine,
Yeah.
So, and, my finances are strange, but I still have enough spare change to put in the gas tank, and so I'm not going around as much as I was, and that's good, because I'm just looking at my little part of heaven, So
Yeah.
So, so you're gonna text me. I'm gonna plug my earphones. Ugh. So, do you hear me now? Okay. So, tell me your phone number, and I'm gonna write it down in my book, but still text it to me. Hold on, let me get my. What can I do with my? Oh, here they are. Ugh. Ah. Okay, shoot. Phone number. What was that? Mm-hmm. Right? Right? Okay. Well, I won't repeat it because why don't you repeat it? And I'll just make sure I wrote down what I said. Right? Yep. Mhm. Right? Okay. So, after we get off, and after I'm on a live chat right now, so I put a little bit of our conversation, which was generic to everyone, on it, and are you still there, girl? Okay. The robot voice came in and interrupted. So anyway, I like your new picture. It's a very good picture of you. I like how whatever you have in your hair makes you look like you're an elf. It makes you like an elfin ear. Well, you're all, there's a lot of elf in you, girl. Yeah. I mean, the guy who wrote the the Hobbit stories, when he was talking about there's the elves, the hobbits, the men, and that guy he was an anthropologist, sociologist guy, and the whole Hobbit thing, the whole Hobbit thing was a metaphor on humanity, and he was, instead of, and it was basically about World War One. He had gone through the horrors of World War One, and he was, and so if you read those books from that point of view, it's interesting, and a lot of people have written about it. From that point of view. Like yeah, and I try to do the same in my writing. Is everything I write is a freaking metaphor. Right, right, because they want to be able to say what they want to say, and not have to. You can talk about it, but if you said the world is blah blah blah, well, you get a ton of people telling you that it's not. But if you say, well, it's just a story, give me a break. So, anyway, so, and writing, I find, so I haven't really written much. So I'll tell you what, I'm writing, I have this, story that's 5 novels. And so I've written 3 of them pretty all the way. I still have to clean them up, edit them. And the other 2, I got them outlined. And so when I can't write, I just go to one of the stories that I'm cleaning up and clean it up. Work on cleaning it up. And, then I'll jump into the one that I'm writing and take it from there. So, it's like playing tennis with yourself. So, I mean, that, at least for me, that's one of my ways of getting myself out of a writing. Is to, just do these. So, and the other thing is to read. I just go and read. I got a ton of books since I'm cleaning up my spring cleaning, and I have piles of stuff that are in the woods that I put on pallets and bagged them up in garbage bags, and then kind of wrapped them up in tarps. And there are a couple of them I kind of stumbled over and forgot that they were there. It was my Christmas present. and I would, unearth them. And some of them would be, the water got into and rotted everything, and there were worms everywhere and blah, blah, blah. Others are as dry as a bone. It's like I put them there yesterday. So I've unearthed a bunch of books that I'm rereading. So you just have to get into different mechanisms that can get you out of the funk, And I have a lot of them. So, I and the other thing is, like I was telling this one guy, when I was working as a shrink, and people would say, "Oh, I hear voices," and then I would say, "Well, what do they say?" And then they would tell me. I said, "Well, if they tell you anything good, go along with it. If they're telling you something bad, tell them to get out of here." Right? Because I was a counselor, and I wasn't a doctor, so I couldn't prescribe drugs. I would have to hand them over to this other guy. And for me to do that was so much paperwork, it was ridiculous. So I would never do it, right? I didn't want to be bothered. And I really didn't have any faith in the guys pushing the pills. So I just stuck with these guys and gals, and no one cared because they were in jail. And, I just worked with them until they could find an avenue that could get them out of that corner. And to my mind, that's what psychotherapy should be doing, right? Giving the individual tools so that they can get out of it themselves. Because if you give them drugs, that's not a tool. That's a crutch. So, anyway, so what did you go see? What concert did you go see? Right? Okay. Is that good? That's good. So you took a little too much of the grape or the grain, right? You said you drank a bit too much. Well, maybe you should not do that. Right, and that too, it's like, I mean, I come up from Irish. My mom's side, Irish. They're all, not all, but a lot of them in her family are alcoholics, right? And my mom was what they would call a functioning alcoholic, and she was a triple Capricorn, and she could stop drinking like a light switch. And she drank every day. She would leave a thing in the refrigerator. She liked Manhattans. She was a cocktail girl, and so she'd have a big thing of Manhattans in there, and I'd go to his Kool-Aid, and I drank the whole thing one summer and got alcohol poisoning, and so she just stopped drinking like a light switch. It didn't, like, she didn't have to just. And then she went to a party 10 years later, and there was nobody left in the house. So, she was the belle of the ball. She got buzzed, and she was back to it. But oh, 3 or 4 years of that, she said, I don't need to do this anymore. And so you have to find your way out of that. And so mine is I never really drank, right? I saw all the people in my mom's family, and so I'm not going to do that. But I did drink three times, like when I was 16, I was in prep school. We came home for Christmas. This was in the early mid 60s. And all these guys were ridiculously rich. And they were like drinking in bars since like they were three, right? And so we went to this really fancy, we went to the Waldorf Astoria, and they have this big fancy bar called the Oak Room. And they have private rooms for people to have parties. And so these guys, they were part of the inside crowd. We went there and drank and drank and drank. And I never really drank. And I got so drunk, I was maybe 12 blocks from my home. And this was a neighborhood I grew up in. I knew every crack in the sidewalk. I knew every corner, everything. And I couldn't find my way home. And the best I could do was keep my hands on the walls as I tried to find my way home so I wouldn't stumble into a street and get run over by a car, right? I knew I shouldn't do that. So I'm walking along and I'm going along and I hit an opening where there's an alley. And instead of like realizing that, I just make the turn and I go into the alley. And in New York, before dumpsters, they used to have the garbage pails in the ground with this lid so the rats couldn't get at the garbage, right? And so I stepped on the lid and it popped open and there was no can in there. So my leg went down into a hollow hole and I got the lid right between the legs, So I got this jolt. It's like getting kicked in the balls. And I went unconscious. And when I woke up, I was inside the garbage can amongst the onion skins and leftovers from the restaurant, right? And I could, I got up, it's like the sun, it was like 7 a.m. And so I was covered in garbage. I was wearing my prep school uniform and I had vomited on myself. And my parents lived in a super fancy Park Avenue where they had like doorman and elevator operators. And I walk in and everyone, so I know everyone who works there like since, for at least 5-10 years. And they don't say anything, they just look at me and kind of giggle, right? And I kind of, he lets me off on my floor. I'm going, I have my key and I'm trying to get into my parents' apartment. And of course, I'm still kind of drunk or really drunk. And so I'm using my key on our neighbor's apartment. And Mrs. Wright comes out and sees me covered in garbage and, onion rings in my ears. And she's just like shaking her head. And she goes, honey, is this the first time you were ever drunk? And I almost vomited on her. And then she had the key to our apartment, right? Because she's our neighbor. So if anything happens, my mom gave her a key. So she opens the door and lets me in and I stumble in and I go into the kitchen and there's my dad making oatmeal wearing my mother's robe, right? And he just kind of he looks at me and he goes, you had a hard night, eh? And I said, ugh. And I went into the bathroom and, hung on the throne and then, took a shower and then went to sleep. And, it took me a week to get over that. So I never drank again until, maybe 10 years later. And I did it again. And that was that. And the third time was a charm. So I've only been drunk 3 times in my life with about 10 years in between. And I won't tell you I'll tell you those other stories another time. But so when I didn't say, I'll never drink again, I will have one, if I go out with friends, I'll have a nice single malt Irish whiskey, right? I'll get a double and a glass of ginger ale. And that's what I'll drink all night long, right? And if I go out to dinner, I'll have 2 glasses of wine. That's it. And so I drink, but I have my limit. So just give yourself a limit, you know? And that way, right, you don't give yourself a limit. So you have to start making and until you're dancing on the table with a lampshade on your head. Yep. So, well, you don't have to do that. Right. 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 Uh huh.